In the biggest competition in the world, there are many players who have left a significant impact on the game and on people's hearts, leaving the sports as either icons or great players. However, in two of the most memorable moments in the world of football, these two players were so good, fans couldn't help themselves but to compare. So the question today is, whose World Cup win was more impressive, Messi or Maradona? Which one of these two players' World Cup campaign was GOAT level? To find out which one of these two Argentinians' World Cup win was more impressive, we will be using this format: opponent strength and performances, which can be broken down into 4 subcategories. With this format, we will be able to understand the setting surrounding each match and also be able to identify both the individual and the team effort that went into winning the tournament, in an effort to understand how significant Messi and Maradona's contribution was to each team. But before I get started, some of the stats presented in this video for Maradona are obtained by me rewatching and analyzing all 7 games Argentina played during the '86 World Cup, which is by no means accurate. Some of the numbers that's presented in this video are subjected to horrible video recording, blackouts, and in one instance, a commercial during a match. The '80s was truly strange times. All of the numbers as manually tracked will be presented in this video as read and should be used as nothing more than a rough estimate when completing this analysis. So without wasting any more time, how strong were their opponents? At face value, when looking at the names of the countries that Maradona's Argentina faced during the 1986 World Cup, I think most people would agree that he faced much harder opponents when compared to Messi in 2022. But knowing that countries' footballing abilities fluctuate from year to year, making sure that these teams' world ranking is relatively the same as today was the first thing I needed to confirm. By using the World Football ELO rating website, which is a system that was modified to create the official FIFA World Ranking website that everyone loves and uses today, I was able to confirm each team world ranking before the 1986 World Cup and compare it to 2022. In almost all 7 rounds, Maradona's Argentina faced harder teams compared to Messi. He also faced more teams in the top 10 at the time, which is really significant. This was mainly due to the fact that the World Cup was a much smaller tournament back then, having a total of 24 teams compared to 32 in its modern format, meaning it was probably much harder for teams to get to the final. Now, Messi fans would probably argue that the individual players that he went up against were much stronger when compared to Maradona's, but that's not necessarily true. When analyzing Messi's opponents, he faced a lot of world-class players in the last 3 matches that he played. But when compared to the first 4 matches, the difference in quality and the sheer amount of world-class players that were in those games were noticeable, something that's not so obvious in Maradona's case. The team of '86 only went up against 2 questionable teams. In the majority of the games that Maradona played, he went up against world-class players, names that even the modern fan would probably recognize. So this first section will have to go to Maradona. For team performance, the difference between Argentina of '86 and 2022 is night and day, because the team of '86 had more convincing wins when compared to 2022. Messi's team had to go to extra time twice and also lost a game in the group stage. But if you're excluding the game that the team of '86 drew, all of their wins were convincing. Maradona's team also had a more positive result when it comes to the number of goals conceded when compared to 2022. So this is an easy point for Maradona. But what about the most important category, individual performance? Individual performances will be split into 5 sections: passing, dribbling, shooting, and performance relative to the team. For passing, over the span of the entire tournament, Maradona attempted roughly 300 passes, which is around 42 passes a game. with a passing accuracy of around 68%. He was able to create 3.8 chances per game, which resulted in 5 assists over the span of the entire tournament. When compared to Messi, Maradona doesn't have as many passes and a high pass accuracy throughout the tournament, but he does have more assists and chance created. This is simply because Maradona was more involved in each game compared to Messi, attempting more risky passes throughout each game. Maradona was also the direct line of attack for the team of '86, something that isn't the same for Messi's team. Now, this doesn't mean that he is a better passer compared to Messi. Most modern players are far more accurate when it comes to passing or shooting compared to players in the '80s. But the fact that Maradona was able to outperform Messi's numbers despite the fact that he had less pass attempted, this just have to be another point for Maradona. For dribbling, this is where the numbers get a little bit weird, but bear with me. During the span of the 7 games, I saw Maradona made over 150 attempts to dribble past an opponent, and although I'm no expert, he for sure passed his opponents more than 53 times. But okay, maybe my team and I are wrong. Based on the official numbers, he had 53 successful dribbles and also had 53 fouls won, which is the most in the entire tournament. But how does this compare to Messi? Well, he had 34 attempted dribbles along with 15 successful dribbles and 22 fouls won, which means Messi was averaging 2.1 successful dribbles per match compared to Maradona's 7.5, which is a night and day difference. And if we go back to my numbers, for total dribbles attempted, Messi's 4.8 is nothing compared to roughly 21 attempts per match. And I say roughly because this number could be higher. So far, Maradona has been more productive when it comes to passing and more active when dribbling. So I'm sure you're starting to get the picture here. For shooting, Maradona has 30 shots with 13 shots on target, along with 5 goals scored. And at first glance, this would mean that Messi was the better finisher in this tournament. But that's not necessarily true. From the 7 goals that Messi scored, 4 were from the penalty spot, meaning his 3 goals from open play would give him a goal per every 7.6 shots attempted, compared to Maradona's 6 for every goal scored, meaning he was objectively better going forward compared to Messi. Now, when it comes to how they perform relative to the team, Maradona can make the case that his win was a one-man job, just based on how involved he really was. His team averaged 380 passes per match, and with his average, he essentially made close to 11% of the passes on the team. He was also directly involved in 56% of the 101 shots Argentina made throughout the entire tournament, compared to Messi's 51%. Even if we try to find how productive they were in each game, say if we add their average chances created with average successful dribbles and their average shots on target, Messi just isn't as involved or as productive as Maradona. And what is quite interesting is the fact that the result is roughly the same when using the numbers I've obtained during my observation. I guess ironically, this isn't even close. So to conclude, this is basically not really comparable at all, nor do I think it's fair. Comparing a prime Maradona to a Messi that was not as powerful as he once was isn't really fair, especially when you're comparing him to someone that came the closest to achieving the one-man job feat in a team sport. What would be a much better comparison though would be Messi 2014 World Cup campaign versus Maradona's run. But I guess that's another topic for next time.